When was the last time you really thought about you? What do I want? How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? Not running from meeting to meeting, call to call, flight to flight, conference to conference. And really, I look at Kim. Every time I call her, I'm at a conference, I'm at another conference. And really thought about that. So today I hope by sharing my story, you will discover your story. Ever since I was little, I wanted to be like Connie Chung. She was the first woman to co-anchor the CBS Evening News and the first Asian woman to anchor a nightly US newscast. But to me, she was one of the few Asian women on television. I remember I was 8 years old and she worked at the CBS affiliate in Los Angeles. And when she would come on, we would gather around the TV. This is when there was only a few news stations and people actually gathered around the TV. And my dad said, "Hey, you could be like Connie Chung." I said, "Really?" And I was fascinated by the power of television. And I was fascinated that there was someone on the screen that looked like me. You see, when I was young, my dad would tell me these stories. So I was born in Washington, D.C. Many of you are from Washington. My parents also immigrated to Washington, D.C. in the 70s. And that's also where Connie Chung got her start as a rookie reporter on Capitol Hill. So my dad would tell me stories. He worked as a waiter on Capitol Hill, how she would come in after work and how hard she worked and all these exciting stories. I was like, wow. She was actually covering Watergate and Nixon at the time, but to me, it was just exciting. I was like, okay. But when I got older, I thought, you know what? I think I want to do this. So I said to my parents, I want to be a broadcast journalist. But then things shifted. My dad said, oh, TV's really hard. I don't think a Chinese girl could make it. My mom said, well, it's kind of dangerous for a girl, isn't it? You'll be at like fires and like dangerous places, and you'll never get married. You'll never have children because you'll always be working. Look at Connie Chung. She wasn't married at the time. So you see, my parents aren't always this negative, but they're actually my biggest supporters. But what they are is Chinese immigrants. And when they came to this country and they started fresh in their early 20s, they played it safe. They didn't want to rock the boat. They wanted me to play it safe, safe from failure. They said these things to protect me. Now, fortunately for me, I think I was able to break through their stereotypes and their voices and able to achieve things that I wanted. When they said that I want to be class president, they said, you should probably focus on academics. I said, Mom, can I enter a pageant? I'd like to win some money for scholarships. I go, okay, but Chinese girls probably can't win. And then when I wanted to play volleyball, oh, be careful, don't get hurt. So I didn't listen to them at all, and I actually did all those things. So it didn't hold me back. Or did it? You see, I graduated from college in communications. I always wanted to be like Connie Chung, right? But right after college, I didn't go into broadcast journalism. I played it safe. I got an office job. I got scared. So my first job out of college was at Paramount Pictures. I know, not so safe, entertainment. But anyway, it wasn't on camera, it was behind the scenes. But then after a few years, I thought, you know what, if I don't go for it now, I never will. So I started on my news journey a little bit late, but I started. I worked my way up from small markets, working 7 days a week sometimes, starting at 2 o'clock in the morning for the morning shift, learning whatever I could to make it, to figure it out, to be good. At 27, I made it. I made it back to my hometown of Los Angeles, CBS affiliate, the same station where Connie Chung worked when I watched her when I was little. You can see I'm with Kent Shocknick. Look at my short anchor hair. I had to like cut it really short. So end of story, right? I had made it. No, that was just the beginning of my self-discovery. So in order to step up my game at KCBS, I thought, you know, I really got to prove myself. I hired a voice coach. I went to a celebrity voice coach, and I remember walking into his office and seeing all these pictures of politicians and movie stars and news peers that I had grown up watching. And I was a little bit intimidated, but I also proud because I had made it. So we went through our typical exercises on posture and voice and breathing. But the day that I remember the most was the day that he asked me about my background. He says, does your background affect your voice? Excuse me? Does your background affect your voice? I don't know what you're talking about. Does your cultural upbringing and the fact that you're a woman affect your voice? Excuse me? I was kind of offended. Why was he putting these stereotypes and the fact that I'm a woman on me? I was successful. I had worked hard to get to where I am. I don't understand what you're talking about. What he was talking about was not my external voice, but my internal voice. He wanted to know if there were things inside me that I was programmed that stopped me in moments of weakness. He knew that talking about your voice isn't just focusing on the external, it's the internal. How many times in your life have you faced a criticism? Maybe from someone you loved, or maybe a critic. Did it make you stronger, or did it hold you back? Or did you even know that it affected you at all? You see, in our lives as women, we are faced with media messages, cultural conditioning, society stereotypes all the time. What are those messages saying to you? And how do they affect you on the inside? And you don't even know it. So that was the shift that happened for me. The first time I realized that I even had internal barriers. As a type A overachiever, I don't have barriers. What are you talking about? I just figure it out. But that day I realized that it wasn't just about the internal barriers in your conscious mind. It's the ones in your unconscious that you need to bring to the surface in order to step into your power. So I ask you, what messages do you send to yourself in moments of stress and uncertainty? And do those messages actually conflict with what you want and what you are trying to achieve? That is what we are going to explore today. You see, I believe that breaking through our barriers is not just about the glass ceiling and the external sense, but the internal sense. And the first thing that you need to do is to see your barriers, both in your conscious and unconscious minds. Second, you need to understand where they came from. And third, you need to redefine them so they are no longer an obstacle, but a strength. But there's two parts of what I want to share with you today. Today is about exploring your barriers. And I believe by breaking through these barriers, we can reach the top levels of success. But being successful isn't just about breaking through all these barriers to get to the top. It's about defining what the top means to you. Taking the time to really create a vision of what you want to achieve, your goals, but also who you want to be and how you want to feel and what you want to leave behind. You are already successful. You got that part figured out. But today, the gift that I want to give you is the gift of time. The time to take a little look inside yourself, to go a little bit deeper, to celebrate everything that you've already achieved, and to break through your internal barriers so you can break through that glass ceiling in your company, in your industry, and in your own personal life. But why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because by not stepping fully into your power and sharing your voices as women, you are robbing yourselves and future generations of women of potential. The potential to dream more, to do more, to be more. I know many of you in this room are probably mentors or advocates for other people. And the things that you do for yourself first carry on to your daughters, to people who look up to you, to people who work for you, even people who you work for. It all has an impact. We've talked about the internal barriers, but why do we need to do this? Because the external barriers, they still exist. This study by McKinsey and leanin.org from the 2015 Women in the Workforce study says despite gains since 2012, women are still underrepresented at every level of the corporate pipeline. and even less at the higher levels of leadership. External barriers, they are a factor, but it's our perceptions of them that affect our confidence and our performance. And if confidence plays a major role in success, even more so than competence, then where are we left? That's why it's even more important to look at the internal, not just the external. Because the external is just that, it is beyond your control. But what happens in here and in here is up to you. So that's what we're going to explore today. How are we going to break through these internal barriers? And I want you to remember something. It's not just about you. It is about the future. The world will be saved by the Western woman, the Dalai Lama. Time and time again, studies show that when women do better, everyone does better. The study shows that more women in the workplace boost global economic growth. More women at senior leadership positions and in the workforce and leadership positions make companies more profitable. And more women leaders empower future generations. The world will be saved by the Western woman. So how do we do all this? This is a big thing that we need to take on today, right? It starts with you. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So today we need to take a bigger look inside ourselves and decide how we want to be. So if you start on the inside, first I want you to understand what your inner voice is doing right now. The average person speaks about 150 words a minute. Psychologists estimate that we speak 10 to 20 times that faster in our heads. How many thoughts is that? Oh my goodness. And unfortunately, a lot of our self-talk is negative. So what is it doing? So if you take a look at our thoughts, I want you to take a look at this without getting too Freudian on you. Your conscious mind is only 10% of what you're using. Everything else below that iceberg, the 90%, your subconscious and the unconscious thoughts, are things that you don't even know are happening. The analogy that I love best is I want you to think of your brain as, your mind as a computer. The conscious mind is like the screen and the keyboard. It's all the information that you put in and the information that you see. Your subconscious are your daily habits, your thoughts, your routines that are just below the surface. But your unconscious mind is your internal hard drive. It's all that programming, all your stories, all your memories. Everybody in this room has a different internal hard drive. We may have the same experiences as women, and many of you may share the same experiences because you're in the same industry. But how you process that information based on your memories, your upbringing, your culture, your religion, comes out on the screen totally different. So then what do? We need to take a look at what your internal voice is saying. So right now, I want to do an internal voice exercise. I want you guys to close your eyes. And I really want us to take a look at what we say to ourselves. I want you to think back on a time. When you faced a difficult challenge, a difficult moment. Maybe it's something that comes up for you a lot, or it's a specific moment. What is happening in your head? What are the voices that come up for you when someone criticizes you or you're faced with a hard situation and you're not sure? Is it saying they are better than me? I'm not ready. Am I getting this right? I feel like an imposter. I'm not achieving enough. I'm not moving fast enough. I'm being judged. Should I say something? What comes up for you? Now that you've seen a little bit about where your inner voice is saying, where does it come from? Mine was triggered by my upbringing and my cultural identity. What is it for you? When you're trying something new, when you're stressed out or tired, when you're criticized, or maybe even when you get praise. How about when you're overwhelmed? Maybe speaking in front of a large audience. What about when something goes wrong? When does it come up for you? When you guys are done, I want you to turn to the person next to you and introduce yourself. It's uneven, groups of 3 are fine. And I really just want you to share what came up for you. I don't want to get into a long conversation about everything that we're talking today because we want to go over a lot, but just I want you to introduce yourself, if you don't already know them, and just share. Each person take a turn, about 1.5 minutes, to just say what's coming up for you right now. So that's what I wanted to take a good look at. So same thing for me. So for me, my inner critic is, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? I'm not ready. And it's because I'm a type A, overachiever, older sister. You probably know the formula. Get things done, nothing bothers me. I can do it myself, all myself, everything myself, all the time. Leave me alone. Making things happen. But that's the issue I want to talk about, is because sometimes, because I had that perfectionist tendency, I didn't realize that I actually have that voice going on in my head. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Of course I'm doing it right. As a leader, if you're asking yourself that, it causes you to second guess yourself, even though you plow through. So instead, maybe what I should be saying to myself is, which I do now, how can I trust myself more right now? How can I trust myself more right now? You can do this. Instead of, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Because even though I get it right, I start going, I don't consider myself a perfectionist, but it starts to have that underlying perfectionist tendency, and it stops you in moments of weakness. Because as a leader and as an entrepreneur, I can't be asking myself, am I doing this right? I need to make a decision, and I need to move forward, and I need to trust in myself. And I don't, so even though I may trust in myself, if I don't say that to myself, it doesn't stick. So the voices that you say, so the 10% is functioning, I can trust myself. The 90% is saying, am I doing this right? How much more can I do? This is not working. It's still having an effect. And that's what I wanted you to see, is that even though our conscious minds, because I'm the type of person that I had a hard time figuring out what my inner critic was. I was like, what are you talking about? I've done all these things. Can't you tell? But it's not about that. It's about when you're alone, when you're uncertain, in moments of weakness, that inner critic comes out. And even though you push it away, it comes up. But if you're aware of it, then you can redefine it. So I'm not saying it's not going to show up. It's just like you said, you've figured out a way, because you're very successful, to push through it and push past it. And so that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today. You have to check in with yourself, and that's how we can overcome it. You check in with yourself and you say, are these thoughts valid? Just because you think them, all those thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts, doesn't mean that they're true. And you need to say, okay, who's in charge right now? I'm just tired. This is not me right now. It's my internal critic. And you need to ask yourself, does anything support these thoughts? Because sometimes your inner voice is good for you. It can help you make better decisions. But as soon as it turns into a critic, you need to shut it down and redefine it. And another thing that I said to myself was, you need to change what you say to yourself. Even though you can plow through it, you need to train yourself to say, not am I good enough and still do it. Yeah, I'm good enough. Let's do this. I can do this. When you say, I'm not ready because you think you want to be over-prepared, I'm ready. I'll take it on. Flip the question so that you continue to train yourself every day. If you're training yourself every day with these negative thoughts and push past them, what could you achieve if you train yourself with positive thoughts every day? So bringing the subconscious to light. And I want to talk about something about you got this. Anybody here ever talk to themselves in the second or third person? You do. What do you say?
It's like if I'm practicing for something I do, I talk to myself.
Yeah. Narcissist? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Psychologists used to think that it was a symptom of narcissism, but actually research shows that if you talk to yourself in the second or third person, it's actually more effective self-talk and can make you perform better. So it seems weird, but it's not.
Sometimes
So that's a more effective way. So now yeah. And that's a funny story. I have a funny story coming up about that. So talking to yourself in the second or third person is another effective way. So first, bring them to awareness, change what you say, and talk to yourself in the second or third person. Here's what happened. When we distance ourselves in our self-talk, we can actually boost our clarity, our confidence, and our performance. Psychologist Ethan Kross from the University of Michigan did a test on people that were preparing to do a speech. You what? Michigan! And he interviewed people, and he said, you have 5 minutes to give a speech. And one group could talk to themselves with I words, and the other group could talk to them with you or their name. What happened is he found the people who talked to them with I said, I'm not ready, I don't have enough time, I can't do this. And the people who were in the you and the name called themselves by their name. They said, you've done speeches before, you can handle this, you can do this. And it actually affected their performance. It not only made their performance better, it actually stopped them from ruminating, which is that process of like, oh, what did I do? I didn't do that right, even though I pushed through. What's going on? Did they look at it? Did they listen? It actually has an effect. So distancing ourselves gives us more perspective, focus, and objectivity. It's actually like flipping a switch in your brain. You are now another person. Talking to ourselves as other people can change how we think, feel, and behave. It's basically like saying we're nicer to other people than we are to ourselves. And why is that? I've even seen it in my 6-year-old daughter. My daughter was at the table a couple weeks ago, and she had a hard time figuring something out. And she's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm so stupid. I was like, oh, where did that come from? I'm Alexa. Why would you talk to yourself like that? Would you say that to a friend? No. Then why would you speak to yourself like that? And I ask yourself, would you say the things that you say to yourself to your friend? So why would you say that to yourself? Our programming starts at such an early age, but it is up to you to stop, reflect, and redefine it. Even for my daughter, it has an effect. I haven't heard her say it as much, but now what happens is that she points it out when other people do it. We were walking from a soccer practice. A girl forgot her bag. The coach brought it, and she goes, oh, I'm such an idiot. And she grabbed her bag. My daughter goes, you're not an idiot. It starts so early, and you need to stop and you need to notice it. Because no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Now, when it comes to confidence, why is it that women underestimate themselves and men overestimate? Why? Some say it's upbringing. Some say it's just our programming. Our brains are wired differently. I've even seen it in my clients. So what happened was, a few weeks ago, I had this client. There was a company that was helping them with their radio show and their media interviews and their videos. There was a team of 2 men financial advisors and 1 woman. I listened to the show, and they were quite good. The woman, I thought, was articulate. She had a strong voice. She was relatable and authentic. The men were good as well, but on her questionnaire, the pre-session questionnaire, she says, I need a lot of work, I sound too young, and I'm not as experienced, and I don't sound as expert-like as my 2 colleagues. I didn't think that that's what she needed to work on. In fact, I felt like she sounded the most relatable. On the male questionnaire, he had a really strong voice, but he used a lot of financial and investment jargon, which didn't really connect with the audience as well. But his survey said, I got it covered. You know, he was pretty confident in all the check marks. I can work on a few things, but I'm good. I got it, I'm okay. So which was interesting, because it's not to say that men don't doubt themselves at all. They do, but they don't let it stop them. They keep going. So that's what you need to remember, is that you need to push forward and redefine it and remind yourself. So for my clients, for the men, what happened is sometimes I have to make them feel less confident. Not in the way they present themselves, but in the way they want to relate and connect to people. To be a powerful speaker on TV or in the media, or even to your people who work for you, you need to connect, you need to be concise, you need to be clear, but you need to relate. And by talking over someone's head or using a lot of jargon or sounding too academic or too confusing does not work. Now for women, a lot of times it's less about me teaching them the skills, but reinforcing that they already have it in them. And to let them know that the world needs to hear what you have to say. So how are we going to break through this glass ceiling again? The glass ceiling is not just external, it's internal. First, we need to be aware of what our barriers are in our conscious and our unconscious minds. Second, we need to understand where they came from. And 3, we need to redefine them so they are no longer an obstacle, but they are a strength. For me, my inner conflicts still exist, but they don't hold me back because I know where they came from. I don't let my parents' fear hold me back, but I understand it. I took their voices and I redefined them. And their struggle has made me stronger to get through anything, and now to help other people share their voice. They lost their voices so I could share mine, and I want to help you share yours. Now I want to talk about a topic another barrier that people don't talk about enough, and that is fulfillment. I think it's great to go for all your goals. I am that first person to check everything off that list. Reaching the top is not just about checking everything off the list. It is about feeling a sense of fulfillment. So what does success mean to you? For me, I used to always think it was a place. As soon as I got to this place and checked off everything on the list, then I would be happy and fulfilled. I created these rules of what success should look like. So on the outside, if I didn't know what success was, then I feel that it was conflicted. So what happened was my idea of success when I was younger shifted. My priorities shifted. I had 2 children. So whatever I had defined for myself didn't work anymore. I was in conflict with myself. So for you, it may be something different. It shifted for me when I have children, but each of us at every stage of our life and our career, our priorities shift. And unless our framework of what we define, what fulfillment and success is to us, we will always be in conflict with ourselves. And that's what happened to me several years ago. On the outside, I had it all together. I had reached that place of success. And it's important to know success is not a place. It's a feeling. I got to that place. I was running a media consulting business. I was still hosting shows. I was running the Zen Mom. So I had reached the place, right? Yay for me! But I was feeling a bit blah. But I couldn't understand why I was feeling blah. Well, I had 2 kids under 5. I was running my own company. I was staying up every single night to finish everything on that list that I thought I needed to get done, to be perfect, to get everything that I wanted so I could be successful and be happy. But I was just burnt out. I was burnt out and I was sad. And then I was mad that I was sad because how could I be sad? I was married with 2 children. I got the nice Facebook photo. Everybody's good. How could I dare be sad? This is everything I worked for. I got what I wanted. This is success. So how do we shift that feeling? What I realized for me, I was always in an inner conflict with myself. What happened was my life had shifted, but the rules that I had defined for myself when I was younger didn't work anymore. But I didn't take the time to take a step back and reevaluate what are my new rules and my new values that fit with my current priorities. So no matter what I did, it was never enough because the old formula I had used to determine my success and fulfillment didn't work. In our society, we are told that if we don't have enough, we don't do enough, then we're not enough. And even though inside I know that I'm not what I do, I had a really hard time accepting that. Just look at our headlines. Work-life balance, can women have it all? Finding balance, how high-powered women can have it all. Why women still can't have it all. Girls can have it all, we need to stop telling them otherwise. What stops women from having it all? So many messages. And what I want to ask you, trying to have it all is driving us crazy. And trying to pursuit of all this balance makes you feel like a failure. So what's the answer? The answer is, what'd you say?
Redefine success.
Yeah. The answer is, I really want you to take a deep look inside yourself and ask yourself, what matters to you? Do we really want it all? Or do we want what matters to you? What matters to you right now? And do you even know what matters to you right now? See, we need to understand that things in our lives may shift and change, and that is okay. At different points in your life and different points of your career, whatever matters to you will change. And you need to give yourself permission to change the rules that you created once upon a time to determine what success and fulfillment mean to you. Once I realized that, everything shifted for me. You are in control of your rules, no one else. Clarity about what matters gives you clarity about what does not. I believe that it is possible for you to create your own version of success. Whether for you that means to break that glass ceiling and go for it and be the company leader that you want, or to make an impact right where you are. The important thing is that you need to know that what you do matters at whatever stage you're at. And it also can help you close the performance gap by knowing your values. Studies show that when you are centered in your values and you know what you stand for and who you are, it causes less stress on your brain. And it causes you not only a sense of purpose and fulfillment, but it gives you the ability to be more versatile, resilient to any challenges that you may face. So when you spend the time to take a look at who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and what matters to you right now, you will be stronger, more confident, and able to take on what is in front of you. Success is not a place, it's a feeling. And I want you to celebrate who you are right now. Everyone close their eyes, and I want to spend some time reflecting. I want you to think about what you are grateful for today. How does it feel? What do you see? I want you to breathe and think about all the things in your life that light you up, that make you smile. How do you feel? What do you see? What are you most grateful for in your life? Breathe it in. Now I want you to think back on a moment where you achieved something. Something that made you proud and powerful. How do you feel? Are you in the zone? Step back into that moment and appreciate it. How do you stand? What do you look like? How do you speak? How do you act? Breathe into the power of that moment. Now think about those voices that we uncovered earlier. You can now see them. They are right there in front of you. They are not hiding anymore. They are real. Your barriers no longer hold you back, though. They make you stronger. You see them, but they are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They are fading away until you can't see them anymore. What do you say to yourself instead? What are the loving, powerful voices that fill your brain? I am powerful. I am confident. I am strong. You got this. What is possible for you right now? Who do you want to be? Step into that person. How does it feel? What do you see? I want you to smile and appreciate this moment. Appreciate who you are, what you have achieved, and what you are feeling right now. Think of all the things that light you up. Smile and breathe. How do you feel? I'll give you guys a little space. I want you, I'm not going to be able to define all your values and your purpose in our short time together. But what I do want you to walk away with is a new awareness that your barriers are inside yourself and you can push past them and you can find more possibility. Before you leave, I also want you to keep in touch with one of your partners and think about one action you're going to take when you leave this conference so that you can continue the conversation. It's too much to fill into one 45-minute talk. And I want you to know that it is possible. But before I leave you, I want to show you one final picture. This is me and Connie Chung at a journalist convention in Washington, D.C. It had come full circle. I was a rookie reporter, and she was a retired TV icon, reflecting back on her life and sharing her wisdom. She had broken through a lot of barriers. Once upon a time, she was a reporter on Capitol Hill in an industry dominated by white men, interviewing politicians in an industry dominated by white men. She broke through her barriers and became the first woman to co-anchor the CBS Evening News. Imagine if, and you don't have to be the first at something. You don't have to make history. What you do need to know is that what you do and who you are matters. And it matters for future generations. She was breaking through barriers and building a legacy. Imagine if she hadn't broken through her internal barriers, pushed past her external ones. I probably still would have turned out okay. But what she gave me was the possibility to see myself where I didn't know there was a possibility. She gave me the possibility to dream. By breaking through your own barriers first and defining what matters to you, you will be able to see what is possible for yourself and help others see what is possible for them. By breaking through your own barriers first, you will be able to define what matters to you. You will be able to see what is possible for yourself and help others see what is possible for them. Thank you.